My name is Mark, and I'm from the School of Computing at the Robert Gordon University in Aberdeen.
Oh, and I'm Jen. I know I forgot how to speak there. And I'll also be presenting with Mark. I'm also from RGU in Aberdeen, from the Department of Enhanced Learning.
Excellent. So we're really excited to show you what we've been working on. So this is a study we did a couple of years ago, but it feels really timely to bring it out this year and discuss some of our conclusions. But we'll get there. So the problem we started out with was we noticed within our schools, so I was doing this in the School of Computing and Jen at the time was in the School of Business, we noticed that people were using a lot of similar types of assessment. You know, you get students to stand up and present, you get them to write essays, and we thought these are really good tried and tested methods, but they're not really getting students to practice real world skills. So for example, when we talk about presentations, I have a class of 200 students. So you need to schedule a room that is available, that is large enough to fit all of them. You need to schedule staff to be able to be there throughout the day and assess the presentations. You need to think about student engagement as well, because if you require that all of them are there for everyone's presentation, you know that the people who are in first are going to be much more engaged than the people who are in last. You need to worry about things like students being reluctant to stand up and present. And also students really only get one chance to get it right. If they stuff up for whatever reason, then that may affect their grade. So all these things were concerning us, and we were wondering whether we could leverage technology to try and come up with a better or a different way of assessing them. So obviously, this being a conference on computing education, we decided to go digital. So in our classes, we decided to ask students to submit videos, and that's what we'll talk about today. We'll only talk about the computing modules we did because that's of relevance here, but we're happy to talk to you about the other modules outside of this talk as well. So my classes were a class on Arduino for first year students and a class on project management for final year students. The first one was teamwork, the last was solo. And we simply replaced the bits in our assessment that said live presentation with please record a video. We gave students some technical guidance. Jen will show you one of the documents later on. We did weekly drop-in sessions to help them with their recordings and their technology. And we also showcased examples of similar work. We made it very clear at this stage that we were only grading the content of the presentation and not the technical expertise. So we didn't care to, pixel count what they were doing or to look at beautiful transitions. Rather, this was used as a different medium for them to be able to virtually stand up and speak, as it were. All of this we did bearing in mind that students are digital natives. From the moment they wake up in the morning to the moment they fall asleep at night, they are consuming media at a relentless pace. Whether they're on Instagram or Facebook or TikTok, they are constantly watching videos and maybe even creating their own. So they know what this content looks like and they're comfortable in the world of this content. And we just wanted to leverage that because we feel that might make things more engaging for them. On a more professional level, we're starting to see that our graduates need to have these attributes. They're being assessed on these attributes when they leave us. So, the industry is constantly looking for more and more standout CVs to put our students aside from everyone else. If an interview is happening off-site, they might need to do this via video, which is something we may not have taught them before. They might be choosing to create professional spaces on academia or on LinkedIn, but we've never taught them quite how to manage these things. Some of them might even want to get a Kickstarter going, but again, we've not really taught them how to create these types of videos and how to engage with this content. So an idea that started off quite small ended up being quite large in the end, and it had a lot of facets that we were considering. So now I'll pass it over to Jen to show you a little bit of what we actually did.
So as Mark alluded to, we sat down together and tried to create something that was a bit more standardized across the university to help support students who are going to be asked to create video presentations. So the technical guidance had links to best practice, some video guides, and links to software, and basically just a step-by-step guide. Mark, next slide. So yeah, it linked to some videos that showed students examples of a talking head or voiceover over their slides, or if they were really shy, they could use text only over slides as well. Next slide. So it's just accounting for a range of competences and skills. So this took into consideration that camera shy students would have permission to overlay slides with audio voiceover, or they could use text on screen or over a screen recording. And a combination of all three could be used as well, dependent on the student's abilities and preferences. Other things to consider: students might not think they have the appropriate equipment. However, the technology in their pockets is often more than adequate. I know myself, I'm not always filming 4K on my iPhone, so and we weren't expecting that kind of quality, so most students would have the ability to do this. However, we did also offer equipment hire within the university in both of our schools at the time. So students were also able to be more succinct, so the time required of a typical presentation we found could be greatly reduced when going digital, which also had the benefit of keeping the file sizes for submission down. And we found it important to highlight to students that audio quality is actually probably more important to get right than video quality, as people are much more willing to watch something with poor video than they are with poor audio. Otherwise, the students were finding it was a bit more of an afterthought with the audio considerations. Next slide. So advantages were that from a marking perspective, lecturers were as engaged in marking with the first presentation as with the last. The presentation tended to be a bit shorter, they were more succinct, and marking time was reduced significantly because the lecturers were actually able to pause the video to write more rich feedback rather than returning to notes from a live presentation at a later date to write up their marking. And our students saw the relevance in encouraging these digital competencies as well, which you'll see from our next slide, Mark. Yeah, so student feedback indicated that the curriculum was better aligned to industry through the integration of these video editing skills. They felt that they could be more creative, had more fun, and the course was more up to date. The majority of those asked felt that the video creation practice was contributing to better graduate attributes for them, as well, as you can see on the slide. Over to you, Mark.
Over to me. So at the start, I alluded that we felt that this was a timely point to roll out this presentation. And of course, with the current pandemic that's going on, a lot of us are looking at ways to maybe move online in the fall semester, or even do some kind of blended way of teaching. And in order to do this, we need to embrace new technologies and new ways of assessing. So Jen and I are both expecting video presentations to be skyrocketing in the next few months. So make sure to trademark that, Jen. So the messages, I guess, that we want to bring out are students have to be using the equipment they have, because now that buildings are mostly shut, they have no choice, really. And as educators, we really need to embrace these tools and look at how we can make the experience more engaging, but also revise the advice that we give students. And I'll end on a little anecdote there. A couple of weeks ago, I had my final live presentations with my students, and they do this in front of a real life client. And I was, giving them my usual slides of how they should do a live presentation and how they should behave and how they should dress up. But then I realized I was leaving some things out that in the current climate I might need to explain to them. So for the first time in my career, and I hope the last, I had to add bullet points to my slides to say, please remember to make your beds, and please remember to move dirty clothes out of sight. And on that fun note, I'm going to end it here. So thank you very much for listening. And if you have any questions, we would be delighted to catch up with you either here or in the open space on Twitter or by email. Thank you.